Hi, this is part 4 of If You Lived at the Time of the American Revolution, and it's just the last couple of pages, so it's not going to take 20 minutes, I don't think. So, I think I read this part in the last one, but I'll go ahead and read it again, and then I'll read this too. So, who were the famous patriots? The most well-known were the men who helped promote the idea of freedom. George Washington, a planter and soldier from Virginia, was chosen to be commander of the Continental Army. Called the father of our country, Washington was a strong leader who held the army together when the soldiers faced many problems. Patrick Henry from Virginia was known as the Son of Thunder because of his patriotic speeches. He started many people thinking about freedom when he said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Then Paul Revere was a silversmith in Boston. He was a leader of the Sons of Liberty, a messenger, and a secret agent for the Patriots. On April 18, 1775, Revere made his famous midnight ride from Boston to Lexington, Massachusetts, to warn the citizens that the British Army was on its way. Revere was captured, but he escaped safely. The next day, the Battle of Lexington and Concord marked the beginning of the American Revolution. John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson were the most well-known of the committee who wrote the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson did most of the actual writing. Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson are here. The Marquis de Lafayette was a rich Frenchman who decided to help the Patriots. His full name was Marie-Joseph Paul Yves Rich Gilbert de Mortier. At 19, Lafayette brought a ship and money to the colonies from France. He asked only to serve and would not take pay. He was an excellent soldier and helped Washington throughout the war in many ways. A schoolmaster who joined the army at the start of the war, Nathan Hale, volunteered to spy for the Patriots, but was caught by the British before he was hung. He was reported to say, "I only regret I have but one life to lose for my country." Crispus Attucks was a black man killed during the Boston Massacre in 1770, when 5 people were shot by British soldiers. This event pushed many people to join the Patriots. I think I mispronounced almost everybody's name on this section. I'm not good with French and new names. Then women were also interested in rights and freedoms. Abigail Adams ran the family farm in Massachusetts while her husband John was working in the Continental Congress in Philadelphia. She wrote letters to him reminding him not to forget the ladies, as Congress was writing laws for the new government. Mercy Otis Warren was James Otis' sister. An excellent writer, she wrote plays that made fun of the British. Printed in pamphlets, her plays were very popular. Later, she wrote 3 books that described the events of the American Revolution. So, lady and that lady. Then we have Phyllis Wheatley, was an African girl, brought to the colonies as a slave, bought by the Wheatley family. She learned to read and write and wrote poetry. Phyllis wrote a poem for General Washington and visited him at Army headquarters. She was known as the first published black woman poet in America. Deborah Simpson dressed in men's clothes and joined the Continental Army in 1782 as Robert Shirtlift. She received an honorable discharge for her work as a soldier when her identity was discovered in 1783. Interesting. Who were famous loyalists? Because the loyalists were on the losing side of the war, their names are not as well known today as those of the patriots. John Singleton Copley was a painter who painted portraits of Paul Revere and Samuel Adams before leaving for England. It was his father-in-law's tea that was destroyed during the Boston Tea Party. Samuel Quincy was a lawyer whose father, brother, and wife were patriots. It was his duty to try to convict the British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre. His brother Joshua worked with John Adams to defend the soldiers. Did you want to go by? Or you want to... We have a visitor here. Let's see. There she is. Penny. You want to go by quickly? Okay. She didn't like being in the back area there. Joseph Galloway was a Pennsylvania delegate to the Continental Congress, but later became the leader of the Loyalists in Philadelphia. He finally joined the British Army and left America in 1778. Dr. Benjamin Church of Boston was thought to be a strong patriot and was head of the doctors taking care of wounded patriots, but he was really a Loyalist spy who was captured when he sent a coded message to a British officer telling about the size and the strength of the Continental Army. He was put into prison for several years, then sent to the West Indies and told not to return. Thomas Hutchinson was the governor of Massachusetts. The Boston Tea Party happened when he insisted that the tea be unloaded. Flora MacDonald came to North Carolina from Scotland with her husband, Alan. She had been active in politics before she came to the colonies. Now she rode around the countryside, getting soldiers to join the Royal American Legion. So, did I show you that already? Then, what useful things were invented during the war? Benjamin Franklin could be called the grandfather of American invention. Franklin is best known for his experiments with electricity, although most of his inventions, such as the Pennsylvania fireplace, the Franklin stove, the lightning rod, and the odometer, which measures distance traveled, were created before the war. They were still used at this time. Franklin designed reading glasses with 2 lenses in 1783. David Bushnell made the turtle an early submarine. Looking like a large oak barrel, it moved when the propeller was turned by hand. The Bushnell presented it to the Patriots as a way to put bombs on British warships. Lee made the first try, but he couldn't get the bomb to stick to the ship. Lee had to work fast. There was only enough air for 30 minutes underwater. The Turtle never worked like Bushnell hoped, but he built underwater mines that made the British Navy very nervous. Let me show you that. So that's the underwater Bushnell thing and the Franklin stuff. George Washington felt that the most outstanding soldier should receive some type of award. In 1782, he started giving the Badge of Military Merit, which later became the Purple Heart. This medal is now given to all soldiers wounded in battle. The words and expressions came from life during the American Revolution. To put your John Hancock on paper means to sign your name. Why John Hancock? John Hancock was the first patriot to sign the Declaration of Independence. He made his signature very large. He said he wanted to be sure the king could see it. The word cowboy was first used to name British outlaws. They used cowbells to attract people and then robbed them or stole animals from farmers and sold them to the British Army. Pro-patriot outlaws were called skinners because they took all of the person's belongings so that they were left with only their bare skin. Let me show you that. Then, calling a person a bigwig was an insult. While wigs were worn by many people, to wear a large hairstyle was thought to be showing off or making yourself look important. The Yankee Return from Camp was a song sung by the British to make fun of the colonists. However, the Patriots liked the song and they turned it into a symbol of the new country. It is still sung today and we call it Yankee Doodle. There are more pages here than I thought. What ended the war? Over 6 years of fighting, the British Army gave up to the American forces at 2 p.m. on October 19, 1781, at Yorktown, Virginia. General Charles Cornwallis said he was too ill to surrender personally to George Washington, and so British General Charles O'Hara surrendered to American General Benjamin Lincoln at Yorktown. The British officer presented his sword and the American tapped it as an acceptance of surrender. The British fife played the song The World Turned Upside Down. This was a good tune because life in America changed greatly after this day. News of the surrender spread throughout the states by messenger, newspaper, and broadsides. It reached Philadelphia on October 22nd, so a few days later. Boston on October 27th. Towns celebrated with cannon salutes, bonfires, fireworks. People kept their lamps in their houses lit all night. Loyalists had to keep their lights on too. It took until September 1783, so like 2 years later, for the final peace agreement to be written. The Treaty of Paris really ended the American Revolution. In the treaty, the new country was recognized and its boundaries decided. Fishing limits were set along the coast of Canada. It was also agreed that Congress would recommend to the states that they restore property to any loyalists who had not fought in the war. In most cases, the states did not do this. How did life change for the Loyalists after the war? The following verses from the song written after the victory at Yorktown shows that life for Loyalists was going to get even harder. Now, Tories all, what can ye say? Come, is not this a gripper, that while your hopes are danced away, 'tis you must pay the piper. After Cornwallis' defeat, many Loyalists quickly moved to England, Canada, and the West Indies, or British-held East Florida. They asked the British government to pay them for their lost property. Those who did get paid received less than half of the value that was lost. Most Loyalists did not get back the type of life that they had before the war started. Slaves who had fought for the British were given their freedom. Some moved to the same countries as the other Loyalists or to Sierra Leone in Africa. Some joined the British Navy. Native Americans, like the Iroquois, who had helped the British, had their villages burned, lost much of their land, and were never able to return to their former ways. How did life change for the Patriots after the war? After a lot of celebrating, the Patriots worked to remove the memory of the British. Place names were changed. The Queen's Head Tavern in New York became Frosch's Tavern, again after its owner Samuel Frosch's, who later became the steward of Washington's household. Hutchinson Street in Boston, named for Loyalist Governor Thomas Hutchinson, was renamed Pearl Street. Some names honored Patriot leaders. Washington College in Maryland was the first college named after George Washington. Mountain towns, lakes, and counties were also given his name. Other colleges reopened, and college textbooks that had all come from Europe were now printed in America. Noah Webster's American Spelling Book in 1783 used American spelling and word usage. Patriotic themes were popular in writings and paintings. In 1793, a history of the Revolution was published for children. The Great Seal of the United States with the motto E pluribus unum, a Latin phrase meaning out of many, one out of many, started appearing on official papers after it was adopted in 1782. Pictures of eagles were also popular because the eagle was chosen as the national bird, although Benjamin Franklin thought the turkey was a better choice. Children were named Independence peace, joy, and thanks. Being a new free country brought problems too, especially with money. Soldiers had been promised bonus money to stay in the army, but the government didn't have the cash. The soldiers were told they would be paid in money or land at some time in the future. It took until 1789, when a new central government was formed, for the nation to start redeeming its promised notes. Products from England flowed into the country, but exports dropped. American merchants, shipbuilders, and fishermen could not compete with other countries when England put a tax on American goods going into England. Congress decided to form a government with a president, not a king. They looked to George Washington again. He became the first president of the United States in 1789 and guided the new nation until 1797. So that is the ending. I just want to read this again. The Great Seal of the United States with the motto E pluribus unum, a Latin phrase meaning one out of many. So that's our motto, one out of many. All right, thank you for listening. I'm Susan Buchser-Lochocki, running for President of the United States with the Green Party. And this is my kitchen. Stop by and visit me at other YouTube videos that I have with Coffee with Me or my Talk Tuesdays to find out some of my policies. And thanks for stopping by and enjoying this book with me. It was a pleasure. I wish you all a nice day wherever you are. Bye.